Oh, right. Cremaster. Now, my own personal history with the Cremaster cycle has flip-flopped several times, going back and forth from positive to negative, so in the interest of brevity, I've asked the Dans to reenact a decade of shifting opinion.
Hey Dan, you sure do hate Cremaster, don't you? Boy, do I ever. Have you ever actually seen it? Nope, but I've read all about it. Well, Dan, that just seems wrong. You should probably go see it before you start judging it. Yeah, I guess you're right. I'll shut up until I actually see it. Hey, Cremaster 2 is showing at the Uptown. Yay!
That was terrible. To be perfectly honest, Cremaster 2 surprised me. It was terrible in ways that I wasn't expecting. Okay, so before we even get started with anything, I'm going to lay it out there. Cremaster is bad. These are the films that normal people imagine when they hear art film. Nightmarish, ugly, and senseless, but in a way that's somehow extremely boring. The entire reason we're going to dig into it is so that we can learn to understand bad art. It does just about everything wrong, and the things that it does right barely break mediocre. Honestly, dissecting Cremaster is a bit like living with someone who has extreme dementia. So much is going wrong that it feels like a great moment if they remember to put pants on before they leave the house. Sure, it's only an achievement in context, and you wouldn't expect anything less from other people, but right here, right now, they're a superstar. Speaking of context, the Cremaster cycle is the food baby of Matthew Barney, an ex-jock with an anal fetish and a deep love for his balls. In the late 80s, he was playing varsity football for Yale, but realized that he had little to no hope of making it in the NFL, so he got an art degree instead. Somewhere in there, he discovered that if you give your homemade pornography a fancy name, you can sell it as art, and he began to produce videos where he would stuff things up his butt or hang things from his anus and scrotum with titles like Mile High Threshold, Flight with the Anal Sadistic Warrior, and Field Dressing, Orifil. He also likes to climb, like rock climbing. That comes up a bunch. After selling some home porn to Lower East Side Manhattanites, Barney started a project that he described with terms like brazen and epic. The 5-part Cremaster cycle, a self-contained aesthetic system constituting sculpture, photography, and performance art with 5 films as the centerpiece. It would turn out to be neither brazen, epic, nor film, but we'll come to all that in time. First, a history lesson about good art. The movie has its roots in abstract and surrealist art, and is often compared to the far, far better film by Louis Buñuel and Salvador Dali. Yes, that's Salvador Dali. Enchant Andalou. Enchant Andalou, or An Andalusian Dog in English, was released in 1929 in Paris and is an attempt to recreate the experience of the dream world on film. There is no story or plot, and scenes just transition from one to another without concern for continuity or narrative, and there is no intrinsic meaning. Dali and Buñuel wanted to play with the conscious psyche's demand for meaning, even though the unconscious dreaming psyche will casually accept bizarre non sequitur scenarios. You see, when you're awake, your mind wants to put things into spatial and sequential order, because it needs that information to navigate the world. But in a dream, anything goes. You can even change from one identity to another without a break in continuity. This is the root of surrealism: hallucinations, illusions, and the dreamscape, things that bear enough of an anchor to the real that you can identify them, but are in some way wrong or unreal. Enchant Andalou is fascinating to watch, if only to see how casually your brain accepts, or tries to accept, the nonsensical transitions and scenarios once you've eased into the film. Oh, and it's only 16 minutes long. We'll come back to that too. Briefly, we need to touch on 2 other concepts that are going to be important, then we can get to Cremaster. I promise, we're getting there. Post-Modernism is an art movement that started vaguely in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and in many ways Surrealism is regarded as a sibling or maybe a subsection of Postmodernism, since the principal concern of Postmodernism is the concept of the real and the impossibility of objective truth, and Surrealism is, all about screwing with perception. There's a lot more to postmodernism, but the main concept that survived, and the first of our two concepts we need to remember, is the idea of the meta, something that we discussed a bit when we talked about Enter the Void. The idea of the meta is that the art doesn't exist in the physical realm, but is only given form and meaning in the discussion about the object that is the focus of the art. Through this lens, a painting is just a bunch of canvas and chemicals, and it's the discussion about those objects that creates the art and the meaning. Over time, we've come to more or less accept that art isn't that one-dimensional, but it's also not a purely physical thing either. Meta-level discussion forms a significant portion of meaning and appreciation, which is why tastes and interpretations shift over time, but you still need to have something to talk about in the first place. Then you have the conceptualist. The conceptualist took the meta to a whole new level, elevating process or means of production as the central value of their art. In essence, it's not about the final product, it's about what you used and how you got there. Okay, that doesn't sound too wacky, I guess. Life's a journey and all that, right? Well, no. The centerpiece of the conceptualist toolbox is the artist's statement. The art itself is typically performance art, but in order to avoid being pigeonholed into existing performance art forms like dance, theater, and music, the conceptualists try to find new things to do, like masturbating in public, hammering nails into their own dicks, and a variety of other things that you could expect to find at a particularly rowdy kink night or circus sideshow. So how do you take what is ultimately little more than an exhibitionist freak show and turn it into art? You write your own multi-page essay telling the audience what it means, and you make sure that it has a religious or political bent to it, ensuring that you'll make someone angry so that they'll start talking about it too, creating a meta-level discourse. That makes it art! Yay! So, to recap really quickly, surrealist art plays with ideas about reality and dreams and the lack of true meaning, postmodernism made meta-level discussion of meaning and importance an integral part of the artwork, and conceptualism made the meta-level discussion and means of production the central focus, with the product itself merely a catalyst. That's where Barney comes in on the scale, with performance work that's somewhere between ass fetish and extreme sports being gussied up with false meaning and meta-discourse. After selling a few home movies where he floods his anus with petroleum jelly, he found some disciples willing to pour money his way, and in 1994 he released the first video in the Cremaster cycle, which would, in the end, form one giant 7-hour video. So what's it all about? It's all about balls. No, seriously. It's about balls. The Cremaster muscle is the tiny muscle that controls the raising and lowering of the testicles within the scrotum, and the entire cycle is about the process of sexual differentiation in the fetus. And right away this is where things start going off the rails, because this metaphor isn't apparent from watching the videos. Well, okay, the balls part is obvious since testicles and ovaries litter the imagery, but that's all. These images are just there. They show up on screen, then they go away. No effort is made to inject commentary, insight, or emotion into the subject matter, and the overarching theme of differentiation is treated just as blandly and vaguely. The only thread that tries to chart things is the recurrence of this symbol, called the field emblem, a symbol that Barney made up that has no meaning outside of the cycle. In order to know what the cycle is talking about, you'll need to refer to the artist's statement, which you can find on the official website or in the official Cremaster Cycle Companion book, available now for only $900! Yay! This is ultimately going to be two of the greatest flaws with the cycle. First, everything you see in here has one true meaning, and any ideas you come up with are probably wrong because Matthew Barney said so. Second, everything is just an inside reference to the cycle itself. You need the book to understand the videos, and you need the videos to understand the book. It's control and marketing, and it doesn't stop with a grotesquely expensive concordance. Hell, it barely starts there. You're probably wondering where you can find a copy of the Cremaster cycle so you can see if it's actually all that bad. Netflix? Nope. Amazon? Nope. Blockbuster? Nope. The Cremaster cycle only shows up in art galleries and the occasional cinema. Only 20 copies have been officially produced on DVD, and those were auctioned off for upwards of $500,000. Why do it that way? It's not available in any sort of mass market or even reasonably accessible legal form because Barney doesn't want you to see it. He wants you to talk about it and read the books his friends wrote, not watch it, because if all you do is talk about it and read about it, then your plane of exposure is tightly controlled and limited to that pillar of conceptualism, the artist's statement. He wants you to visit the official website where you can look at a select few photographs and read about how visually stunning the images are and how brilliant and deep the meaning is. He doesn't want you to see the washed out colors, bad video, sloppy editing, terrible pacing, horrible sound, and crappy sets. So, if you want to see it, you're going to have to resort to either traveling halfway around the world, or spending 5 seconds looking for a bootleg copy online.
Police, open the door.
Join me next week as we dig into the actual videos.
What y'all wanna do? Wanna be ballers, shot callers, brawlers, who be dipping in the bins with the spoilers, on the low from the Jake and the Taurus, trying to get my hands on some grants like